Coming home to the United States, and the common theme that we're hearing in the news right now, funding freezes. Well, talk of those freezes at many levels of the government now ending up in the courts and elsewhere, not only in the government. About an hour ago, a judge heard arguments from the National Council of Nonprofits against the Office of Budget Management. CBS News Department of Justice reporter Jake Rosen following this case. So what is this all about? And take us into those courtroom arguments.
Yeah, right, Reed. Earlier in the Trump administration, in the first hours, the Trump administration issued an executive order funding domestic funding for nonprofit groups and big grants going all across the government. And so there are two current legal cases. Both have been temporarily paused by judges. This is just a hearing in one of the cases. The government obviously is ending for this freeze to end so that they can reevaluate the domestic funding that they see appropriate. You'll remember it was just a blanket pause, meaning that many charities across the United States were basically out of luck, out of funding, had to put people on furlough or lay them off. And so this is one big group of coalition of nonprofits who are suing to keep funding for their organizations, to allow their funding to continue. So far, they said that after the initial freeze and this judge put a pause in place, that they have gotten that funding back, and they're arguing today in court, the hearing is still ongoing, to keep that money flowing for as long as they possibly can before the Trump administration has an opportunity to reevaluate and potentially cut it permanently.
All right, and let's talk about another hearing going on. We understand at the district court level, hearing of a lawsuit regarding Trump administration suspension of those refugee settlement programs later this afternoon. That's happening. What can we expect from those arguments, Jake?
Right. The Catholic Bishops Association, which is a massive group that one of 10 big groups across the country that helps refugees after they've been vetted overseas, come to the United States legally. They help them find jobs. They help them find housing. They're claiming that because of the funding freeze overseas, which there have been numerous lawsuits about, all those lawsuits that we've discussed, read about USAID and all international nonprofits having their funding frozen. In addition to this, this Catholic charities group is suing to get their funding back. They said they've had to put 50 employees either furloughed or fired. And they basically said that they can no longer exist, which means that there are people here who came here legally, coming here now still legally, who now will not have the opportunity to have a group help them find housing, a job, and opportunities here in the States. So again, it's just one case in over 81 currently going on across the government and against the Trump administration and their executive policies. This group hoping to at least get some funding back for these refugee resettlements in the U.S.
These are definitely the days of busy and well-paid lawyers fighting on many fronts. And you can't talk about courts, Jake, without talking about that case, that corruption case against New York Mayor Adams. There was a hearing yesterday in which both sides, the government and Adams, agreed the charges should be dropped so Adams can focus on President Trump's immigration policies. So what's next in the case?
Well, a judge heard the arguments yesterday, although there really wasn't much of an argument. As you just pointed out, both the Department of Justice, Emil Bove, the third in command of the Justice Department, he argued on behalf of the DOJ, who obviously moved to drop this case. Mayor Adams and his attorneys were there. They obviously wanted this case dropped and never brought in the first place. The judge, Dale Ho, he oversaw the argument yesterday, prodded some questions, made sure that at least in a legal court of record that Mayor Adams said he was not promised anything on behalf of these charges being dropped. He asked the government the same question. He did not issue any kind of official ruling from the bench, so at any point, whether it's today, tomorrow, into next week, there could be a decision that really would cross and leaps and bounds across the government in terms of how the government prosecutes cases. If he agrees that the Department of Justice can just drop a corruption charge like this against especially someone in as high profile a role as Mayor Adams, it would really send ripples through not just the FBI, not just the Department of Justice, but just the legal system at charge that people, in terms of cooperating with the Trump administration, if they do that, they could have their legal cases or legal sentences either reduced or have charges dropped altogether.
There's a big word that nobody likes to talk about, but that is precedent, and this case could definitely set that precedent. Jake Rosen, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Tell our peers there in Washington, D.C., thanks for all of their work there behind you.